Next part of our presentation is going to move pretty fast. I've got a lot of slides here, so I'm only going to be up there for a couple of seconds. Now, this presentation attempts to identify the two controversial figures in the doorway of the TSBD in the Altgens photograph. Our two test subjects are Lee Oswald and Billy Lovelady. This is, as we have up on the screen, is the clearest version available of the Altgens photograph. For those who have never seen it, the inset shown here is the area in question. Okay. Now, this is a close-up of the TSBD doorway. The scan has been widely used to identify Billy Lovelady. This scan originated from a book published by Robert Groden called The Search for Lee Harvey Oswald. And like I said, most people who have identified Billy Lovelady as Doorman have used this slide in particular to say that it's him. And this is a close-up of Doorman, also known as the man in the doorway. This is Billy Lovelady at the FBI photo shoot of February the 29th, 1964. The reason this photo shoot is important is because it shows us what Billy Lovelady really looked like front view and side view. Using this photograph, we can work with existing photographs, and especially the Altgens photograph and others of him, where we can perform overlays, digital overlays, to identify Billy Lovelady. These images allow us to calibrate the system, okay, and draw empirical data to make accurate comparisons with other photos of Lovelady and Lee Oswald. This is Lee Oswald under arrest at City Hall the evening of November 22nd, 1963, wearing the same shirt that he had on during the entire day. This is a color rendition of that shirt. It was rust-colored, brownish. It was a sort of tweed material interlaced, and it was a very particular and very special shirt because I don't know that we've seen anything like it. The provenance of the shirt, I have no idea, okay, but we are 100% sure that he wore that same shirt during the day of the assassination and throughout the night in City Hall when they had the midnight conference on November 22nd, okay. Now, facial recognition terms that are going to be used here today, and I just want to review those quickly, okay. Interpupillary distance is the distance that we use to set the probe, or we have a probe image, which is the one that we're working on, that we're trying to identify, and we have gallery images, which are the images that we are going to overlay onto the probe. Okay, we use perspective, has to be the same. Facial symmetry is important because in this case, we use a couple of photographs that we've had to flip. And the reason for that is because photographs with that same angle of Doorman do not exist. Now, there's one particular photograph that I'm going to show here today where Billy Lovelady is in that same perspective, that same angle, that same position. Okay? Now, layers and image overlays. What we're working here, we're working with layers. Okay, where we, like I just mentioned, we overlay the gallery image over the probe, okay, and we use different opacity values in order to discern if these images, if these two individuals are one and the same, or if they are different individuals. Scaling and alignment, we use scaling and alignment to, once we have the interpupillary distance set, we move the overlay to match it as much as possible, okay, and that's where scaling and alignment is important. Photogrammetry is when we put two photographs of the test individual and the probe, the photograph that we're testing, side by side, and we draw lines across, okay. Now we can also actually overlay rulers and grids, which allow us to give us an exact comparison between one and the other. Biometrics is part of the measurement of features, and I'll show you, just give you a couple of examples of how we use biometrics here. This is all tied up with by computers and software. We are now at a stage in the case where we can actually use technology which did not exist 50 years ago or even 10 years ago, and that's very important. Okay. Now the methodology, the forensic facial recognition field has advanced to a point where the next couple of slides are going to have a little bit of already recorded information. So I'm just going to run that real quickly here, okay?
Image overlaying and facial recognition. Facial recognition using image overlaying software is widely used and accepted in the field of forensic science. The following is quoted verbatim from this source. The procedure of the comparison can be qualitative or quantitative, using relative or absolute dimensions. In a morphological comparison, the location and size of facial features is measured relatively, not absolutely. If the perspectives of the questioned and known images are similar, and the position of the head is similar, the image depicting the known individual can be scaled to that of the questioned individual by using the interpupillary distance or other consistent features within the image. Overlay of the scaled known image and the questioned image can then be made in order to determine if the relative alignment of other facial features is consistent. This overlay of images is also referred to as the superimposition method and can be performed with video editing or image processing equipment. A variation of the overlay approach is a photogrammetric one. A side-by-side of the images is prepared and two sets of 3 or more parallel lines are drawn through facial features, such as the jawline, pupils, nasal bridge, on both images and compared by position. For both a photogrammetric and overlay approach, the images must be of the same perspective, but the key difference is that an overlay allows one to view the length and width simultaneously, although viewing the lines in the photogrammetric approach leaves more to human perception as one looks across both images. Superimposition can appear to be doctoring of the evidence if not properly explained, because scaling implies changing the images to effect alignment, but the method is sound. Therefore, a superimposition can provide extremely beneficial information to determine if features appear to be the same and if the relative locations and dimensions relate. With an overlay, the examiner can blink back and forth between questioned and known imagery to assist in the comparison by identifying similarities and dissimilarities. In this type of comparison, facial landmarks, standard reference marks generally defined by the underlying structure of the skull, are used in the main as guides and are not typically measured.
Okay, now we've got that out of the way. The angle of the flipped image the angle of the flipped image of Lee Oswald offers the same perspective as Doorman. Okay, because there are no known photographs of Lee Oswald with the exact same perspective and angle that we see in the Altgens 6 photograph. This is the Oswald image that will be used for testing. It is also known, like I just mentioned, as a gallery image. Now, in order to use a flipped image, we need to find out and decide and show you, demonstrate that the symmetry of the face of Lee Oswald was consistent in the manner that we could do this. Okay, now this is from the New Orleans Police Department mugshot, okay, and this is the normal, and this is the flipped image, okay. When we combine the two at 50% opacity, we get this, okay. So this is a very symmetrical face, which in my mind validates the use of a flipped image. The same happens with Billy Lovelady. This is a flipped image of Billy Lovelady, which also offers the same perspective as Doorman. This is one of the other gallery images that will be used here for testing. when we run the facial symmetry test on Billy Lovelady, and again, this is why that photo shoot, that FBI photo shoot is so important, because we can establish our protocol and our scientific reasoning by running these tests. Okay, and this is the flipped image of Billy Lovelady. When we combine them at 50% opacity, this is the result. Okay, now, Doorman. This collage is a close-up of the man in the doorway showing his relative position. He is located right on the top landing of a stairway in the middle, which is what the lady here was commenting on. He is located right on the top landing of a stairway in the middle, standing against the center rail. This is our control or probe image, Doorman. Bear in mind that this is nothing more than a close-up of the scan shown earlier. Okay? Our two gallery images, when we show them side by side, both of them are flipped. The face angles are the same as Doorman. Okay, this is a photograph taken by Bob Jackson in 1971, where he placed Billy Lovelady on the third step of the TSBD entrance. Why is this photograph important? Because this photo published in newspapers when Lovelady died in 1979 is from that same photo shoot by Jackson in 1971. This non-flipped photo offers the perfect perspective to compare with Doorman. So we notice how Jackson posed Lovelady in the same angle seen in Doorman. This is our third gallery image. Now, in order to validate this methodology, we need to run test overlays, okay, and calibrate the system. Okay, now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's begin by explaining how facial recognition works. We begin by introducing the calibration of the system. This first example contains two women who are obviously not the same person. After setting interpupillary distance, aligning and scaling one layer onto another, this is the result. Okay, you will notice that the grid sets the interpupillary distance, and when we lay one onto another, this is the result. Now, our next example compares two platinum blondes with very similar hairstyles and overall features. In this case, Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield. When we combine them at 50% opacity, this is the result. As we can see here, there's quite a, the only thing similar from both of them are actually the hairstyles, but if you look closely, you'll see that the mouths overlap, the nose, the eyebrows, etc. So this tells us that these are not the same person. Now our next slide is a collage that shows the result of this exercise. The most dramatic differences are shown in image number 3, right here, which I have already pointed out, which shows differences in mouth, brow line, and general facial contour. Now, let's move on to test overlays of different photos of Marilyn Monroe. Now, these are overlays of the same person in different photographs. This one and this one. By slightly tinting the image and overlaying one onto another, this is the result. As you can see, all the features line up, even the birthmark that she had over her left lip there. And it's pretty obvious that the eyebrows, the eyes, the nose, everything lines up perfectly. So what we're doing here is calibrating the system, okay? Again, a very important part of scientific methodology and protocol. Now, this is an example. What about testing photos of the same individual at different ages, different time periods? This example spans a difference of 44 years. This was a fellow who happened to have been on the lam for 44 years after a murder case in Ohio. This 8-image collage shows from the different levels of opacity from 0 at the top left all the way to 100%. If you look closer, you will see that all the features line up despite the amount of time that has gone by here. Okay? So let's move on now to Lee Oswald and Billy Lovelady. These 4 images of Lee Oswald at different times of his life, which will be used. We will also use to calibrate facial overlays of one of our test subjects, which in this case is Lee Oswald. I just want to point out the one on the top left is his Marine, when he was in the Marines. This is from the passport photograph. This one here is from the New Orleans Police Department mugshot. And this one here is actually the one from the mugshot of the Dallas Police Department on November 22nd, 1963. Now, I want to point out something very important in this photograph. As you see, the left eyebrow, okay, was a result of the beating that Lee Oswald had that day at the hands of the police department when he was arrested in the Texas Theater. So when we start doing some of these overlays, you might see a little bit of movement in that particular area, but that is perfectly fine and normal. There's no problem with that because of that anomaly that he has over his left eyebrow. Now, when we color code these photographs, okay, the Marine, the passport, New Orleans, and Dallas, okay, now we can work with these doing overlays such as this one. This is an animation where we show how the features do not move. You'll see that what moves here is the Dallas Police Department, that area in the left eyebrow. Okay, but other than that, the nose, the eyes, the lips, the chin, and everything lines up perfectly for Lee Oswald. Now, this is a photogrammetric comparison that I was just talking about earlier. We can actually use this grid and ruler overlay to draw empirical data. When drawing lines across facial features, we note consistency across eyes, nose, and lips. The length and width of the face are exact matches as well. Like I said, there's a 6-year difference from leftmost to rightmost. And as you can see, we draw across the line, the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And when we superimpose the ruler and the grid, that's when we're able to draw empirical data from this exercise. Now, more calibration. From 0% opacity to 100, we can appreciate that this is one and the same individual. There was a difference. The New Orleans Police Department was taken in August, okay, the first week of August, and the Dallas Police Department photograph obviously was taken on November 22nd, 1963. Now, in the same manner, we have to calibrate photographs of Billy Lovelady. Okay, these are calibration overlays of Lovelady using we're going to use younger and older versions of Billy Lovelady. The first one is in 1967, from this 1967 photo shoot that CBS did. CBS was going to do a special commemorating the anniversary of the assassination in 1967, and they withdrew the entire episode, but they still provided this photograph, and this is a very important photograph because it shows Billy Lovelady out in the sun, okay? And we'll put more emphasis on that in a little bit. Now, the older Lovelady on the right is from 1976, and it's been, it was done, I believe, by Robert Groden and the HSCA, the House Select Committee on Assassinations, okay? Now, our first overlay result with Billy Lovelady shows that the eyes, the nose, okay, the mouth, everything lines up. The only thing that we have, and I need to stress this here, is since he's squinting his eyes, okay, there's a little bit of a difference there. I mean, that's normal, that's very obvious, but this lines up to be the same individual. And again, we're using the FBI photograph, that photo shoot that I introduced earlier. Now, an older Lovelady, again, the features line up, okay? Now, this is a photochrometric comparison between Lee Oswald and Billy Lovelady. Shows a difference in height and width of the head and face. Interpupillary distance is wider in Billy Lovelady. And the next two slides, if you look closely, you'll see that the eyes are set right at the crosshairs here and here. And once we have that set, we can actually we can count the squares and give an idea of the dimensions of the face of Billy Lovelady. Okay, the same thing happens with Lee Oswald. As we can see, the face of Lee Oswald was thinner. Okay, and that's very important because once we start with the overlays, you'll notice the difference. These are profiles of both of them, showing the position of the ears, one and the other, which was also different from one another. So let's take a look at some of our results. This is the first overlay of the first image, the one that was flipped. Okay, and as we go from top left to bottom right, okay, we can appreciate a great deal of difference between the features. I'm going to give you a close-up of that. This is an animated GIF where we have put all these images in sequence, and as you can see, it starts at 0% opacity, and as the color begins to come in, you'll see that the features, for example, the nose is more bulbous, the mouth shifts a little bit to the right, the eyebrows are different. As you can see, they move a little higher, okay? And actually the forehead seems a little bit swept back, okay? Now, here is a grid overlay and ruler image. It shows us, areas where we can research, we can draw empirical data and measurements, okay? Now, this is our second overlay using the non-flipped image from the photo shoot by Bob Jackson, okay? And this one is even more compelling because from left to right down to the bottom, we can see that they just do not line up. And when you see the animation, you'll be able to appreciate the difference between one another, okay? Now, this is a photogrammetric overlay here with the grid and ruler. And now this is our animation. I think once you see this, and it's very important to look at the features, okay? If you see the features moving around a lot, it's pretty obvious that it's not the same person. When these overlays match, the features do not move at all, okay? The nose, the mouth, everything seems, because everything is in synchronization, okay? Now I'll just leave that up there for a second. In a minute, I'm going to put both of these side by side, all right? Is everybody clear on this? Okay. Now, our observations with Billy Lovelady. Once the interpupillary distance had been set, we attempted to scale the head of Lovelady as much as possible to match that of Doorman. Here are some of the anomalies. The nose is rounder, larger, and more bulbous. The bridge is different. Nose shifts to the right, displacing it from the shadow cast by the nose of Doorman. I think that's the most important identification here, or rather the lack of identification. When you look at how his nose is not in synchronization with the nose of Doorman, that shadow should be right under the nose, and in Lovelady's case here it's not, okay? There is slightly more space between the lower lip and the tip of the chin, which brings the mouth slightly higher. The eyebrows are more rounded and arched, and there's more space between the eyes and the brow ridge. The shape of the chin is different, and his face is wider. The forehead, like I mentioned earlier, is swept back at a different lower angle. Now, let's take a look at some of the results with Lee Oswald. From left to right, top to bottom. Okay, as we increase opacity, we see that by and large the features line up. Okay, the nose, and I think that's one of the most important considerations. Okay, you can see that the nose, and I'll show you a couple of close-ups here now, coincides with that shadow. Okay, the eyes, the nose, I'll give you a little detail now of the similarities, because here we're talking about similarities, not the similarities. And here's our grid overlay, grid and ruler overlay, where we can draw empirical data from this exercise. Now, the key identifiers that we have found here, the interpupillary distance between Oswald and Doorman is the same. This makes the eyes line up perfectly. The nose matches, including bridge and general conformation. More importantly, like I said, the nose is in perfect position to cast a shadow seen below Doorman's nose, which was caused by the noon sun. The lips, which are pursed in a particular and specific manner, are a match. The eyebrows and brow ridge are more horizontal and are a match. The high forehead is a match. The chin matches in size and shape. The face matches in both width and height. Okay, here we have the side by side, and here are photogrammetric, drawing our lines across, and these are lined up perfectly. And as we can see here, there's a great deal of difference between one and the other. This is the second non-flipped image here, and I want to point this out because this is proof that Billy Lovelady's face was wider. If you look closely, you'll see that the ear doesn't even extend to the ear of Doorman. And the reason for that is, as his face is wider, when you have to scale and align the face, it draws the face in, okay? And that's why we have that anomaly there. Now, I'm just gonna let you folks decide here when I put them side by side. And like I said, you have to look in closely at the shifting, okay, of the features, okay? And in both of these, when you put side by side, which one is moving more? As the opacity goes from 0 to higher opacity, okay? That's our flipped image, and now our non-flipped image. Here we see the same situation, okay? I'll leave this here for a second. So can everybody see this? Is that visible here on the screen? Is that good? Okay. Okay. Now this is the reason why this grid is very precise. It doesn't look like it, but it is. The eyes, the grid is intersected with the eyes going sideways, horizontally, and vertically. Okay, the Lovelady on the right, okay, is the normal. But when we have to scale the pupils and the eyes to that of Doorman, we see the egg shape here of the head, which is caused by that scaling and alignment. And when this happens, the ear falls out of alignment and does not match Doorman. Okay, and here is a close-up of the animation with Lee Oswald. Like I said, the key to this is observing if there's any movement of the features as the opacity goes from 0 onto, I believe this is up to 50% opacity. Okay, we'll move on. So, but where is Billy Lovelady in the Altgens 6 photograph if he is not Doorman? Our hypothesis: the man standing at the east wall of the entrance on the top step, shielding his eyes from the sun. This is a blow-up of what's commonly known as black hole. Now, if you look closely, you'll see features here. Even though he's in the shadow, we have mouth, nose. These are called laugh lines, or in the scientific term, perioral creases. And a lot of people, when they squint in the sun, they tend to draw these up, okay? And it's like an involuntary reaction, okay? So these are very important considerations, because now when we work on overlays with the other photograph of Billy Lovelady from the frontal angle, we see that, we're going to see now the results, okay? Again, the importance of that FBI photo shoot. When we overlay the FBI image onto Black Hole Man, we see that the features, not only do they line up, but they do not shift, okay? And from zero opacity down, if you look closely, the mouth, the nose, everything seems to be in order, okay? Now here's an animated GIF. Here we go from zero opacity up to, I believe, 50% opacity on this. And we do a photogrammetric comparison between the two. Here we draw lines across, like we have done earlier in our calibration stage of this presentation. The mouth, the nose, and you can make out a faint image here of an eye, okay? And it also lines up. And also vertically. When you draw this line vertically, you see that they also line up. Now, we'll try it with another photograph of Billy Lovelady, using the same 1967 CBS image of Lovelady that we used earlier in our calibration. This collage here, 12 image collage, goes from 0% opacity to 100% opacity. Okay? And the reason this one is important is because of those perioral creases that I was talking about a couple of seconds ago. As you can see, they're quite pronounced in this man in the doorway. And in this image of Lovelady, they are just as pronounced as they are in the man there in the doorway on the right, of the east wall of the top step of the doorway. Now here's our animated GIF using that 1967 CBS photograph. And I'll let that run a little bit. Again, you have to focus on if there is movement of the features or if there is no movement of the features. Now we do a photogrammetric comparison, and again, the features line up. Now we're doing this with two different photographs of Billy Lovelady, frontal shots, with black hole man. And it seems to me that they both line up pretty good. Now, we couldn't get off this presentation without showing our interpretation of the doorway. Showing Lee Oswald and Billy Lovelady in their respective positions in the Altgens 6 photograph. And finally, a little Photoshop magic, dressing him up in the shirt, both of them with the shirts that they were wearing that day. That concludes our presentation.
The little child who supposedly you would think would be held and sitting up in that man's arms to the left on the photo, the right of the doorway. That little child, you can see the body structure is standing, so there's a covering up of who that man is, and he may have been an agent. But I wanted to say to you, Larry, I'm Claire, you know me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing this. I'm in the second article that was written for Veterans Today. I'm one of the contributors, but God bless you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Claire. Well, you know, we could talk for 2 hours or more about alteration of the Altgens 6 photograph, because there are many areas of alteration. That's not what this presentation is about. Maybe next year or something like that.
I just wanted to raise it so people didn't think
Yes.
it was just this.
Yes, because we found at least 12 or 15 different areas of alteration, including ink spots and that type of thing, you know, hiding people, for example, with cameras, even Emory Roberts, you can see a big ink splotch over his mouth where it's obvious that he was speaking into a microphone, you know, many instances. Yes, sir. We're almost there. We got 3 more minutes, right? 5 more minutes? 5. Okay.
This is simple, but I want to make sure I understand. So the guy in the doorway is actually Lee?
We believe so, sir.
Thank you.
And the evidence here leans heavily towards that. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your presentation. You did a very good job explaining the theories behind your system. For those who haven't seen the police artist for the Houston Police Department, who did the three tramp, I don't know if many people have seen that.
Lois, yes.
Yeah, she did a fantastic job, which really shows how this works.
That's right.
And I thought in the case of the three tramps, she clearly identified them as the three. that-
Harrelson, yes.
Harold-
That's right. Rogers, Harrelson,
Rogers,
and
Wacko from Houston, who
and-
murdered his parents, and Harrelson and
And Chauncey
Holt,
Chauncey Holt.
third. Okay. I don't want to detract from this thrust here, but the photo that appears strongly to be George H.W. Bush is a much higher quality picture.
Yeah.
And I would ask you to do
Yes.
the same thing on that.
We will, yeah, thank you, that's a great idea.
Lee, just a quick question. How did, if the Texas School Book Depository did do extensive background check, what about Oswald, given that he had been?
That's right, absolutely. Well, if Oswald was an agent, okay, CIA, and he had different assignments, for example, in New Orleans, he was assigned to try to infiltrate the Cubans, okay? All he had to do was say, Lee, we've got suspicion of gun running in the TSBD, this is your assignment. That's how you get in there. Okay?
Since we have Roy Lewis here today, isn't there a way that a comparison could be done with the photograph of him and the
Yes,
man that is
absolutely.
there?
Let's see if we can give us a profile before he leaves.
Yeah.
That's right. Great idea. I'll make a point of that.
Real quick,
A couple of sides.
Yeah.
time-wise, is this consistent with the woman employee of the school book depository who sees him by the Coke machine on the second floor?
Okay,
Mrs. Reed, Mrs. Robert Reed, are you talking Geraldine Reed?
I don't know her name, but somebody,
Yeah, Geraldine Reed. Yeah, but she saw him come through in a T-shirt, not the shirt.
There are two Geraldine Reeds. In fact, there are three Geraldines altogether. Some of them are mixed up, and I'd like to say that and this is difficult for me to say. I respect Robert Rhodes' work a great deal, but we have a problem with the fact that she said when she was giving him change that he didn't want to get pennies because he was against civil rights and didn't want Lincoln. Now, we hear when he's arrested, he's got pennies in his pocket. And I am a witness that we who sat in the back of the bus, we were pro-civil rights. So she's embroidered at least what she had to say. Now, I know that Lee Oswald's innocent, but I'm not going to support anybody even that it looks like would help us when they're not telling the truth.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
Just one quick question, and is Lovelady on record as ever stating that that's where he stood or where he stood?
Yeah, actually, we found one of the two tapes that Kenneth Bruton and Robert Roden did interviews with Billy Lovelady in 1976 when they first started working with the HSCA. They went out there, and these tapes have been lost at the National Archives. And yeah, okay. So a colleague of ours, Dennis Morissette, uploaded these. He found one of them, and he uploaded it to on YouTube, and we downloaded it, and it was very, very poor condition because the audio was very poor. We fixed the audio, and we transcribed the entire interview. And at one point, when Kenneth Bruton asked Billy Lovelady from where you were standing, even though you didn't see him, could Lee Oswald have been in the doorway? And he says he could have. And it's coming straight from Billy Lovelady's mouth. Okay, so that's pretty compelling right there.
Maybe he was couching his words.
It's pretty, maybe. Okay, so yes, sir.
Yeah, I had a question. Would it be rational for him to see this and then go upstairs and eat his lunch?
Well, they say that Wesley Frazier went to the basement to eat his lunch. So people, after the assassination, they're going all over the place to eat their lunch.
He was renowned for fearing being the patsy long before the assassination. He was fearful of being patsy. So why would you go away from where other people were? the moment the assassination happened?
Well, it's like Judy has written extensively that he knew what was happening, and
That's
that,
my point.
and as he was being railroaded into that position, you know.
He was a pretty bright guy, so.
Absolutely.
Gut instinct would be stay out here where other pictures will be taken and where people can say I was here.
And that's very interesting because we know that possibly many other pictures of Lee exist, but they were just confiscated by the FBI when they were camping out at every photo processing center here in Dallas, just collecting evidence, in the name of the for the sake of the investigation. So, one last one.
Actually, Larry, it's time to bring this one to a close. We're going to be taking a 10-minute break, and then we're going to go ahead and resume with our next speaker. If everybody would please give Larry a great round of applause.